Welcome, friends. In this video, we're going to be looking at history as our subject. Now, history, there really isn't a whole lot of instruction and a whole lot of training for teaching history in our home, other than two things that I would like to share with you about history. The first thing about history is the biggest reason why we study history, and that is so that we can see the patterns throughout all of history. The patterns are really important for us to understand, and the cycles that people go through are important for us to understand because what we learn from them is valuable. And that means we're looking at the consequences and the choices and the choices and the consequences and how everything plays out because of the choices that people make. Most likely, those choices are from leaders, but it really is fascinating to see how those choices have consequences, and some of them have pretty dire consequences to them. So that's really the reason why we're looking at history with our children, is to pick up on those cycles and to help them understand the value of those consequences and those choices that people make throughout history and what really happens to those things. The second thing that I'd like to share with you about history is that when you're looking for curriculum or you're looking for things to study in history, it's really important that you know your sources and know where they're coming from. And I know I say this and I'm one of those people that's like, oh, really? They're just going to tell me that and not anything else. I'm going to give you a little bit more guidance on this. One of the things with history that is really, really tricky is the fact that even clear back then, hundreds and thousands of years ago, we had rulers that would burn all of the real history and they would rewrite history for whoever they were ruling, and they would make themselves look like they were amazing rulers, right? That was clear back then, like forever ago. So this is not new. And as we get closer and closer to our time, it still isn't new. The history today has been so corrupted, which is kind of hard to say. And it's kind of sad because we don't really know a lot of details about what happened, but we can still pick up on some of those cycles throughout history, even though we don't know all the details. The thing is that I want to share with you is that even in our close proximity of time frame, right, within the last 500 years even, we have had people who have burned books and people who have rewritten history. Maybe they haven't burned books, but they are in control of the education through a government and can accept or deny certain things within the curriculums, which is what's happening today. But we have people as close to us as Hitler and Stalin who are doing this. So it's not new, and it's been going on for a long, long time. What do we do about that? Is there anything we could do about the falsities in the history? Not a whole lot, unless you have a history major and you can actually go to the archives in Washington, D.C. and look and read it and do all of this undercover detective work, right? So history is one of those things that really, when it comes down to it, the whole purpose of them is to find the cycles. We can find the cycles without diving too deep into history and without going too deep into some of the lies that history wants to share with us. Some of those lies that come out of history are also written in a lot of the classical books. I'm going to say that again because I know that the classics are something that we always love and we want to go to teach our children because they're classics. But we have to also understand who wrote the classics. And even back then, the government was in charge of bringing forth a lot of those classics and allowing them to be classics in the first place. So we really need to question the propaganda and we need to question the information within anything that we read that is classical or historical. They're kind of connected, not kind of, they're very intricately connected to each other. So just an FYI for you. Now, what do we do about all this, right? We have all this information. Great. So I just don't teach history to my kids, Heather? No, I think it's really important that we keep we help our children understand the consequences and the cycles throughout history. So one of the things that I have loved that I've found, and I don't really find very many good history resources, but I did find this and I have really enjoyed it with my kids. It's called The Story of the World. This book, or she has a set of these books. It's Susan Weisbauer who wrote these books. The reason why I like Story of the World is because it shares the stories in a way that it's more broad, but you can see the cycles throughout history. You know what happened through history, but you don't get a lot of lies within the stories. There are some things that may be fabricated a little bit, but as far as history books go, I think this one is pretty good. So the other reason why I like this and why I like that the stories are just broad and it just kind of covers it, blanketizes the idea of history is because anything that I want to go deeper in with my children or they want to learn more about, they can kind of do a deep dive in that and we could do more research with those things. And the other thing is, with this book, she does mention the Bible and Jesus Christ in here. And so it has been kind of neat that way as well to dive a little bit deeper into scripture. Honestly, the Bible is my go-to history book. This is my second go-to because it shows what else was happening in the world at the time other events were taking place in the Bible. And it's just an overlay of the history. And I like it that way because I know that there's a lot of propaganda in a lot of the other history books. And I also know in a lot of classics, there's a lot of hidden propaganda as well. So for history, the things that are important to remember is that things are manipulated through time. And it's just really valuable for you to know what you are reading to your children and bring up those conversations because the values and the perspectives have been watered down or directed to a certain agenda. So we don't want that for our children. And the other thing is that the patterns within history are important to learn. If we can teach our children the value of consequence and the value of choices, then history is a win. It's important to share that history with our children, especially when it comes to biblical history, because then we see exactly how losing those values or disrupting the faith or the beliefs of the people can really change a lot of things throughout history. So that's my thought. Those are my thoughts with history. I know that's not a ton to go on, but those are the two most valuable points that I could ever share with anyone about history. So with that, that should help you, I'm hoping, give you a direction for what you want to teach your children and how you want to teach your children history in the future. So there you go. That's history. Have fun learning history and enjoy, and carpe diem. Seize the day. We'll see you later. Bye.